Hello and welcome to another reaction video. Today we're going to be reacting to all of tomorrow's Iceberg Explained. Yes, I'm going a little bit of an iceberg binge, but that's because I want to dive on different topics because I'm very interested in different lores that this universe is, or not this universe, but that we have around us. You know, there's so many stories, so many lores. I have to put my foot in all of them. I have to know, I want to know. Anyways, this is going to be a fun watch. Thank you very much for pressing the video, and let's get right into it, shall we? Alright, let us go ahead and watch this. From the picture, this looked very weird. But then again, we did previously react to a Cthulhu Lorecraft entity, Lovecraftian entity, Iceberg, so it cannot be weirder than that. So let's get right into it and see how it is.
This video is based on the 2006 speculative evolution book All Tomorrows.
Before we start, I know nothing about this at all. I know less about this than I did about the Cthulhu, and in the Cthulhu one I knew basically nothing, so this is even going to be more blind than the last one.
Billion-year chronicle of the myriad species and mixed fortunes of man. Certain aspects of this chart will consist of further speculation on my part. Now let's begin. The first tier is entitled Humanity and Invader. I'll go over the basics here. Martians. After so long of advancing within their own world, the human beings of Earth traveled to Mars. They first made oceans from the water harvested from comets. After this, they sent microbes to create breathable air and plant genetically modified plants and animals. Years after the year had become inhabitable, barefoot children were sent to this planet to start a new civilization, sistered with Earth. Over time, they developed their own sense of culture and identity separate from Earth. The residents slowly evolved into a tall and lanky humanoid due to the planet's low gravity. As Martians were beginning to surpass Earthlings in capability, tensions rose and the civilizations went to war with one another. The war lasted for many years and the Earthlings were nearly wiped out completely. After this, the Earthlings and Martians formed together and vowed to never war with one another again. Then, they genetically engineered the next entry. Star People. This evolution of the human being was created to be better and smarter than both of its mother species. It was created with the intention of exploring and colonizing space. Over the next few generations, the United Star People colonized their solar system successfully. For people too far to reach within a single lifetime, they sent technology that would terraform a planet and create life using genetic material. During a particularly misunderstood part of this period, many of the beings created this way fell in love with the machines that created them. Generations died due to a mass identity crisis, but the colonies that did survive actually thrived and lived utopic lives for generations. The Q. This is a godlike ancient species that attacked the Star People civilizations. They were galactic nomads with a religious conviction and goal to reset the universe with genetic manipulation. They traveled from planet to planet, modifying every living being on each planet into abominations and wickedly evolved mutations of varying natures. Throughout humanity alone, they shaped thousands.
Actually, let me check, because I just realized on the right side it has stats. What was the stats on the Star People? Oh wow. Oh wow, we were no match in their stat wise.
Attacked the Star People civilizations.
Wow.
They were galactic nomads with a religious conviction and goal to reset the universe with genetic manipulation. They traveled from planet to planet, modifying every living being on each planet into abominations and wickedly evolved mutations of varying natures. Throughout humanity alone, they shaped thousands of different beings, many for pets and entertainment. After some time toying with the living creatures of the Star People, they left humanity to find a new planet to reset, leaving the worlds and inhabitants a mutated mess of twisted and bizarre human evolutions, or what's left of humans. The second tier is titled Early Extinctions. These are some of the notable human evolutions that became extinct for various reasons. Titans. These giant creatures dwarfed trees as they roamed the savannas. The Q turned their hands into heavy stumps, although the lower lip grew into something similar to an elephant trunk that could be used as a hand. This was one of the more intelligent of the Q's creations, and would eventually develop sentience over several generations. Over time, they developed a culture, language, society, literature, and homes. They would speak legends of their half-forgotten past that was the Star People. It is said that they were capable of reaching a point of galactic civilization, but they were wiped out by a planetary ice age. Mantelopes. These creatures were bred specifically for the purpose of retaining memory and entertainment for the Q. They had fully developed human brains and understood the world that they occupied. They also knew that they were being forced to be pawns or puppets for the Q. They had an intelligent mind that was stuck in the body of a grazing herd animal, unable to change anything. For centuries, they would roam as herds, singing songs of loss and the frustration they feel in their situation. Entire religions and traditions were created solely around their grief. Within 100,000 years, they eventually lost their intelligence, and the melancholy singing was silenced forever. Striders. The Q invaded a low-gravity moon world and turned the humans.
This is so odd, right? This is very just odd. So humanity thrived, and then we got attacked by an alien race, and they just got us all. Did we all just got turned into this? Where there wasn't anything out there that like survived, and not survived, but that was unaltered by this alien race. Because it seems that everything was just completely like manipulated, and there was nothing that nobody that left that was normal, or anybody that got away. Also, look at these poor stats. Goddamn.
Into this incredibly tall, thin, and delicate creature. They towered above the trees like mobile skyscrapers to the point of being at the same height as many of the flying creatures. However, due to their brittle skeletal structures, they didn't last long. A nasty evolution of the chicken turned hostile against these creatures and wiped them out completely. These absolute mammoths of creatures were able to see far in the distance of the horizon to take advance warning of things of importance. For instance, they knew well before the other races the benefits of liking and subscribing immediately.
Oh my god.
Hand flappers. Although
Yeah.
the Q made many creatures to have wings, not all of them had the capability to fly. This unfortunate creature was never very intelligent to begin with, but to add to this, the evolution's wings were not intended to be used for flight nor hands. This species used their wings specifically as a way of attracting mates, and that was it. This species would eventually find its way to extinction. They were not well adapted for their environment, and with very little utility without hands or wings, they simply did not have enough time to evolve the necessary functions to thrive. Blind folk. During the Q invasion, a portion of the population proceeded underground to hide from them. Of course, they were eventually found and turned into these albino subterranean mouse-human creatures with massive whiskers. Though they were blind, they used their long fingers, massive ears, and banshee-like screams to navigate underground in the dark. They were preyed upon by bats and crocodilian creatures, so they tried actively to avoid them. Their future seemed bright, but it was to no avail, as tectonic plate shifts caused their civilizations to be crushed underground. Bone crushers. The monstrous bone crushers resembled giant ogres with a beak made of teeth protruding from their mouths. Their strength, size, and speed
That's a beak? Ah, that's nasty.
was notable, and the race quickly became the dominant species on the planet. They only consumed putrefied meat and only communicated through defecation. They were only mildly successful and had reached a medieval level of society before eventually running out of food sources and dying out. Tempters. These horrific evolutions were an even more cruel trick of fate by the Q. The females were designed to be twisted form of living decoration as a 2-meter tall cone of flesh, almost appearing as a fleshy flower or plant. They still had some semblance of intelligence left. However, the male versions were quite small, mindless, and mobile. They were blindly controlled by the females and were controlled by pheromonal essence and vocal signals that she puts out. They gathered food and guarded their mate, occasionally mating via ascending down the mating tube. Although it was incredibly strange, it worked quite well. They would have eventually built a civilization, but they were wiped out by a stray comet. This is the third tier, entitled New Humans.
Ooh,
it consists
what is
of the human
that?
evolutions that were able to survive beyond the Q's departure. There were
okay.
varying degrees of success for each of the evolutions. Lizard herders. These humanoids had their intelligence completely stunted by the Q, preventing them from ever achieving sentience. They lived in symbiosis with these herbivore reptiles. The humanoid lizard herders never evolved any additional intelligence, but the reptiles would slowly evolve into a much more capable, intelligent being. This was an ominous foreshadowing of what was to become for their future. Insectophagi. The anteater-like humanoid had long fingers to dig, a long tongue to hunt insects, and a hard leathery face to protect itself from insect bites. This was a mildly intelligent race that recognized the importance of having fingers that can be used as tools. They were able to handle their environment fairly well despite their unusual nature. Worms. This species was found living underground.
Okay.
The Q modified their hands and feet into tiny appendages. They also greatly reduced their vision effectiveness and most of their brain
Oh fuck, what did I
for
do?
their future.
Oh, my bad. I was just trying to blind myself.
And most of their brain was removed. Their entire life consisted of digging underground aimlessly looking for food. If they encountered other worms, they would either consume it or mate with it. They were described as a wretched, mindless creature. They did not have a wonderful existence, but luckily this wasn't always the case. Predators. On other worlds, humans were turned into these werewolf-looking creatures with sharp teeth and claws used to hunt down other creatures. They are said to have a small trace of human spark and intelligence left within them, however, they were mostly animal. Their entire species and culture revolved around violence and killing. It took a major role in their development and evolution. They primarily hunted the following entry, another human evolution brought by the Q. Prey. These herbivores occupied the same planet as the predators. They were very simple-minded creatures that were completely animalistic, without any form of sentient thought. They were mere lamb to the slaughter to the far superior predators. Luckily, the reproductive rate of these creatures was abnormally high, so the population was able to stay in balance, despite the ravaging of the prey from the predators. Colonials. Another barbaric abomination of the Q. The colonials were amalgamations of flesh and nerves constructed together. They were developed to be a form of filtration device for the Q waste products, and as a form of cruel punishment for the planet's residents defending against the Q invasion, they kept the eyes and conscience of the people so they can fathom the horrors that they were going through. They suffered through nightmarish lives for 40 million years, praying for extinction, but the Q had made them vastly efficient, so they spread throughout the world, forming quilts of human flesh across the land. Swimmers. Though they didn't look human, they still had very human eyes under a massive section of blubber. They were somewhat intelligent as they were capable of speaking to one another, however they were unable to hear underwater, so their cruel gift was never able to be fully utilized. Despite this, they managed to grow and thrive in their underwater environments. Their future seemed incredibly challenging, but bright at the same time. The fourth tier is titled New Humans Extended. This is another branch of human evolutions who surpassed the challenges set before them after the Q left humanity. Flyers. The Q, of course, made many flying species in their invasion. This species in particular developed a unique starfish-shaped heart that could process an incredible amount of oxygen. They became one of the few species that could process enough oxygen to fly as well as possess human-like brains. Their intelligence and mobility allowed them to flourish in their environment over millions of years. Evolution would be good to this race. Lopsiders. On one particularly high-gravity planet, the Q turned the humans—
What the fuck is that? What is this? What is this? What is this? What is the design? What is the purpose of this design? It looks like a not even a blobfish. It looks like a sunfish. Is it called a sunfish? I think it's called a sunfish, right? The fishes that lay at the bottom of the sea with one side of their face down and the two eyes on one side of their face looking up. It looks like that, but like worse in every degree, like worse in every single degree.
Planet, the Q turned the humans into these flat creatures. They used their three main limbs to slowly crawl along the ground while using their fourth arm and hand as an antenna. They had two eyes. One would stare straight up while the other looked straight ahead of them. Despite being such a foreign creature, they actually thrived in their high-gravity filled environment. They would be one of the lucky species to move forward and domesticate and continue the long road to civilization. Parasites. The Q punished another planet's residents who had attempted to fight back against their invasion. They modified only a section of its population into these turtle-sized vampiric creatures that would infest the remaining population. They created a number of different parasitic creatures within this planet. Some would infest solely into open wounds of dying individuals. Many of these parasites had such an elaborate and complex lifestyle that most of them died out after the Q had left their civilization. Fingerfishers. On one planet with calm and shallow oceans littered with countless islands, the Q developed the fingerfishers. These tall and lanky creatures had one long hooked finger on each hand that was used to spear and capture fish. They had snouts filled with razor-sharp teeth to consume them for nourishment. This evolution would treat them well through the years. Being on an ocean planet, they had two options: evolve to fly or evolve to swim. Though they were perfectly suited for their present environment, there was too much water for them to maintain their current bodily functions. Hedonists. This human evolution was created solely for the purpose of being a pet, and just like many pets today, they were pampered and spoiled. They also had their own planet to live on with no predators whatsoever. They lived a carefree life of joy and pleasure in a tropical paradise filled with lakes and sweet bacterial juice for nourishment. Despite living in a world of mass mating, the Q designed these creatures to only get pregnant after an enormous amount of copulation to prevent overpopulation. Their lives consisted of eating, sleeping, and fornication with a blissfully ignorant lack of intelligence. Spacers. Some parts of humanity successfully escaped to avoid the Q's invasion. Many of them formed homes inside of hollowed-out asteroids.
Okay, so there was humans that escaped. That was my main question. I'm glad they answered it. I was like concerned, like damn, none of us got away at all. But no. We did get away. We 100% got some of us to get away, and that's good. I like that. At least some of us got away. I'd have been concerned.
In order to adapt to gravity, they developed long, spindly limbs, and their torsos thinned out unnaturally. They were also forced to create a method of maneuvering through their homes in space. Over years of evolution, they developed a pressurized digestive system that turned flatulence into a method of propelling themselves forward with the gas that comes from their specially evolved sphincters. Their evolution prevented them from returning to planets or homes with gravity, but it did not seem to bother them. They were very content in their weightless environments and began to disassociate themselves from their former brethren. The fifth tier is the next stage in evolution for the new humans, millions of years after the Q had left humanity behind. These races would eventually band together to form a collection of races working towards advancement. Snake people. After millions of years, the mindless worm creatures emerged from their stagnancy and evolved an intelligent brain. After time, the snake people had been formed. This creature had developed a unique spiral-shaped brain that granted them human-like intelligence with observational and understanding capabilities. Their ancestors' feet formed into a limb that could be used as a hand. Over time, they created a tight-knit community underground that was completely literate, enjoying books and music in the form of vibrations through the ground. They carried with them many of the same struggles and values that humanity has today. Killer folk.
Okay.
The predators eventually evolved into a more intelligent being. They grew grasping hands instead of claws, and the teeth receded into a socially displayed organ. With the population of their primary prey food source, they were forced into many years of tribal wars of conquest. One part of the civilization discovered farming and rejected the notion of hunting to survive, opting for a peaceful, unified front. The two factions nearly destroyed one another, but their differences were eventually reconciled and they survived. Tool breeders. The swimmers' inability to create fire underwater forced them to create different kinds of tools to advance. They learned to domesticate and modify other aquatic creatures and literally breed organic tools. They built massive cities powered entirely by organic life. They created amazing heart-like creatures that pumped nutritious fluids from a series of self-healing conduits. It was like an organic, living power grid. The creatures' homes were made of living shell and bones with bioluminated lighting. Makeshift entertainment was formed out of cephalopod skin. Sea squirts formed medicines and vaccines, and mollusks were formed to fire teeth as ammunition. The tool breeders were able to master the oceans with their technology in stem cells and genetic modification. This species eventually outgrew their one planet and was able to create spaceships capable of traveling through space.
How?
Saurosapiens. The fate of the lizard herd.
How would they use spaceships? They're underwater. What would be the thrust required, and what would be the energy source they need in order to break through the atmosphere? What kind of organic matter would they have to make that could be resistant to the vacuum of space and fully insulated, and then create oxygen for themselves inside? Technically just carbon monoxide purifiers, right? But what would it... Well, I guess algae exists, so maybe they have an advanced form of that. Interesting. This is very interesting. Okay. So far, honestly, as much as I'm enjoying this, the ones I care more about are the ones that are in the asteroids, because they're the only ones that didn't get altered. Funny enough, I'm sorry, but the only ones I really cared are the unaltered ones.
was locked when the Q stunted their mental capabilities. They were
Right.
never able to achieve sentience and never advanced as a species. However, their symbiotic reptilian partner did advance, and it did achieve sentience. They evolved into the Saurosapient and began using their mindless humanoid partners as their own form of transportation, labor, and food. Although they had no discernible ancestral connection to humanity, they took a very human-like cultural identity as they were influenced by the ruins of the Star People that previously existed on their planet. They were well aware of what the Q had done to humanity and lived in perpetual fear that they would suffer the same fate. Modular people.
Oh.
The nightmarish existence of the colonials would eventually evolve into several offshoots of the species. Instead of living as one homogeneous mass of carpet flesh, they merged into separate colonies. These colonies would begin warring against one another, further developing tools to help their cause, like the ability to siphon resources from afar, creating pseudo-starfish-like feet to move, and primitive weapons. Over time, one colony emerged victorious, known as the Modular people. This vastly intelligent sect would combine themselves, split apart, or exchange parts interchangeably to serve a specific function to advance the species as a whole. They would successfully turn their miserable, meaningless existence into a utopia where billions live joyful lives as part of a unified organism.
Nah, I'm
Pterosapiens.
good.
The
I'm
flyers
good.
that originally had feet to catch prey would eventually evolve into hands that would assist them in their progression as a rapidly advancing being and society. As a very mobile species, they saw no need in creating nations and lived in a globally aligned society filled with massive cities of perches and towers. They developed an egalitarian society without strict social classes as knowledge quickly spread throughout the world. They harnessed nuclear power and farmed their relatives on the ground for sustenance. Despite having a thriving civilization, their high level of intellect and energy requirement from flying caused them to have an unnaturally short lifespan of around 23 years. The
Wow,
Pterosapiens
that's a very short
understood their own
lifespan.
mortality very well, and entire libraries worth of books were written by their philosophers pondering the meaning of existence. This picture
Hmm.
here has an interesting backstory as well.
I wonder what it
Asymmetrical
is.
people. The flat humanoids known as the Lopsiders would eventually form a very advanced civilization.
What are these guys gonna get? You know, these guys kind of given the short end of the stick, so I'm wondering what they get. Probably nothing that great, but then again, they could be the most advanced one for all I know in the end. Let's see.
Capable of spaceflight. Their bodies were suited for heavy gravity, so when reaching planets of low gravity, they were forced to engineer a subspecies and called them the asymmetrical people. The newly formed species was able to thrive in the New Worlds, however, they developed a complete sense of hatred for their creators, and they ended up eradicating the Lopsiders from existence before venturing out and exploring space. A major reason for their rapid evolution was the choice to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Symbiotes.
Damn. Never mind.
Back on the planet of the parasites, the human evolutions that were the hosts for these parasites took on a very specialized role. Over time, the parasites and hosts began an inseparable partnered relationship where the parasites warn the hosts of danger and the hosts provide a source of blood. The hosts also developed a specific area for the parasite to nest. The hosts were initially used as a transportation source. However, over time, the bond between the two became inextricably linked and the parasite began to use the host as a vessel in complete control. The newly formed symbiotes would continue to flourish and eventually create technology, making the hosts obsolete. However, they preferred to keep them around for comfort's sake. Sail people. On the Fingerfisher's planet, a plethora of life had evolved. One prominent race was called the Sail People. The clawed finger had evolved into a sail and feet evolved into a tail fluke. Their tongue grew long and thin, allowing it to be used as a hand to do tasks like capturing food. Navigating the seas and catching food required massive intelligence, so this was a trait that developed over time as well. Due to the nature of the spread out society, there was continuous conflict between the races before one group of Sail People was able to unify the world's races. Satyriacs. The perpetually blissful hedonists faced near extinction when geologic activity kicked up massive clouds of dust blocking the sun. One small subset of mutant hedonists was able to survive through the disaster. They had a mutation that allowed them to bypass their reproductive limits. The newly evolved Satyriacs developed sentience and built an advanced self-sustaining civilization. Naturally, there was still minute amounts of their roots within them, and they would occasionally indulge in pleasure-seeking and promiscuity via concerts, festivals, and ritualized sexcapades. Tier 6 is entitled Self-Governed. These are the races of evolved humans who did not band together with the post-human empire for one reason or another. Bug facers. The insectophagi became an incredibly advanced race of beings. Their leathery faces hardened into a part of their jaw, and their hands and feet evolved into pincers. Though this race went on to form an advanced civilization, they faced a traumatic series of attempted invasions from a hostile alien race. This scarred the bug facers so much that when the Empire attempted to contact them, they remained silent and left the galaxy entirely. Asteromorphs.
Okay.
The humans that escaped into space
These
evolved
guys.
to suit their environment. Their legs would atrophy and shrink as they only use flatulence to move around. Due to the weightlessness of space, their cranium and in relation, their intelligence increased in size dramatically. They became far more advanced than anything its ancestors had even fathomed. The asteromorphs would spread throughout the entire galaxy, simply monitoring the various planet civilizations and growing in intelligence. Ruin Haunters. On one planet, the Q had inadvertently left some of their technology behind. Although the Ruin Hunters were not significant by any stretch, the technology left behind allowed them to flourish technologically faster than the political systems and social structures could even keep up. Because of this, they nearly destroyed themselves in worldwide nuclear wars. After unifying, they took on a sense of superiority, feeling that they alone were the rightful and true heirs of the Star People. When the post-human empire approached them about a possible unification, they declined the offer. However, due to their sun rapidly expanding, they needed a way to expand beyond it. Gravitals. Using their superior technology, the Ruin Hunters merged their minds with ultimate technology. They became quantum computing minds inside of a floating metal sphere that used gravity fields to mold and manipulate the environment around them. The Gravitals began to eradicate the other human evolution species one by one. Their primary method of attack was to block out the sun. If that did not eradicate the species, they would send in an asteroid to finish the job. The Gravitals did not wipe out the bug facers, however. Instead, they turned them into another species. Subjects. The bug facers were turned into this horrific subsect of species. The subjects were used primarily for laborers and servants, however some of them were turned into a...
I find this kind of ironic how we went from unifying to spreading to getting conquered and, you know, changed into these things, and then one of our species of the many that changed became that advanced that they ended up doing it to other selves again, or destroying the other ones and then doing this to our other self again. God damn, we did not learn anything. If anything, we became what we hated the most.
A mere form of amusement. The subjects were used for many genetic experiments with organic recycling and rebuilding of matter. This was the only form of organic being within the mechanical gravital empire. Tier 7 is known as the Division of Humanity. Here we'll go over the ultimate civil war between the two most advanced human evolutions after the invasion of the Q. Fall of the Gravitals. The only competition to the Gravitals was the Asteromorphs. They both feared one another and knew the possible consequences of conflict between the two. The Asteromorphs extended an offer of unification, but the Gravitals initiated an attack upon them instead. The ensuing war lasted for millions of years, affecting countless stars in the process. The Asteromorphs would come away as the victor and attempted to make things right. They took the population of the experimental subjects that the Gravitals had created and spread them throughout the galaxy. Terrestrials. The Asteromorphs created a miniature, modified version of their species to travel with each race. They served as a form of guidance, king, or a prophet for these new civilizations. This race became known as the Terrestrials. Their overall objective was to guide the civilization down a peaceful and wise path. However, some of these new civilizations or Terrestrials would corrupt, and the Asteromorphs would need to interfere and destroy them. But many of these Terrestrials would become the ferry to an advanced and prosperous civilization. The new machines. After the war had been won against the Gravitals, the Asteromorphs were able to utilize them by disabling their gravity weapons and slightly numbing their minds to discourage rebellion. At first, they were used as laborers in dangerous situations until they became part of the Empire. They were given nanotechnological bodies with the capability of transforming into any shape. Despite being a loyal citizen of the Empire, they were still discriminated against and stereotyped. Mechanical beings were never fully accepted or trusted after the atrocities committed by the Gravital. The 8th and final tier is titled Endgame. This is where we'll...
Okay, so now we have this one thing, humanity, that never got changed and evolved on its own. Got their shit together and got everybody else together. Good.
be wrapping up the saga of humanity. Ambicephalify. After the human asteromorph empire had been established, they made contact with a number of advanced civilizations through nearby galaxies. The Ambicephalify, a very alien race of giant snakes that contained creatures within their mouths, was just one of the many races that the human asteromorph empire would make contact with and eventually work together. Naturally, they had just as turbulent and chaotic of an evolutionary history as one another. Unified Galaxies Empire. The human asteromorph empire banded with the Ambicephalify and a number of other galaxies in a unified goal of expansion and peaceful cooperation with shared knowledge and resources. They developed the abilities to create artificial shells around their suns, harnessing every benefit with eternal energy. They conquered space travel as they crossed through wormholes. It was inevitable for one particular moment when the United Galaxies encountered the evil race that started it all, the Q. The United Galaxies banded together at once to defend against what they knew to be a horrific experience if it was not dealt with. The war consisted of methods, tactics, and technology that is simply unfathomable to our own minds. The damage to the universe was untold. Eventually, the United Galaxies triumphed and defeated the evil race, known only as the Q. Earth rediscovery. The Earth had become an obscure and stagnant planet. The inhabitants and environment had become feral, with nothing of significance for the human asteromorph evolutions. However, it was a notable occasion to be visiting a planet of origin after 500 million years of absence. Both the modern inhabitants, as well as the new humans, had changed drastically to what they once were. Humanity's final fate. I think the author said it best when they spoke about the ultimate unimportance of the final fate of the human race. The story of humanity was never about its end, not about the ultimate domination of galaxies, or the transcendence from reality. Being human was always about the daily lives of people, from the love songs of the carefree hedonists, the families of the sail people sharing a meal, to the pontification of the Ptero sapiens. Grander narratives and absolute ideals are what led to humanity's worst atrocities. The Gravitals massacred to reclaim the past. The Q conquered for some fantasized idealized future. Living for some abstract ultimate goal so often leads to destruction. So when you look on the remains of the long-gone human species, remember that it's in the present that matters, not the past or future. What you do today shapes tomorrow, not the other way around. So love today and seize all tomorrows. I have a lot more content on my channel, and I put out new videos.
Wow, what a heartfelt message in the end. I'm gonna sub to this guy. What a heartfelt message in the end. I'm not gonna lie. Well, that has been my reaction to all of tomorrow's Iceberg Explained. That was definitely one of the weirder things I've reacted to. I'm not gonna lie. Let me hella confused half the time, being like, huh? What's happening? Why is this happening? You know? Or like, not even why is this happening? Like, what is this? How is this in a human evolution? Or how is this why did the Q do this? Like, it looks nothing like something we should like evolve into or evolved in general. The fucking block people, the block flesh people, no. Big nopes. No, just I would rather not even get close to that. I'd rather die. Nope. Anyways, that has been my video. Hope you guys very much enjoyed. It was a very delightful watch. I'm glad that in the end we were managed to, you know, get our get back against the Q. Fuck the Gravitals. They kind of messed everything up. We could have had a bigger empire. It's definitely very cool. I liked it. Anyways, besides that, hope you guys all have a great day. I'll see you guys next time. And if you're interested, you know, follow me, sub, like, and you know, I don't know, stop by my Twitch, I guess. Can't really think of anything else to plug. Shameless plug. Anyways, besides that, see you guys. Have a great day.